it's interesting, I was speaking to some sources that work for James Comer, who is the House Oversight Committee chairman, and they sort of said, it's on the public record that Comer actually would have preferred AOC. And I think if that is the reason, then maybe they made the right choice with a Connolly.
Welcome to the Washington Examiner's Reporter's Notebook. My name is Con Carroll. I'm here with Naomi Lim. Now, you've been working a news story about the Democratic Party and them needing new faces. So tell me a little about that.
Well, I think the Democrats are in this sort of soul-searching moment post the election, but I think we're going into the new year where I think a lot of people have New Year's resolutions, new starts, and that's essentially what some Democrats are calling for. They, I think, acknowledge that, the things that they've sort of campaigned on during the election didn't help them get over the line. In fact, it kind of backlashed, particularly some of the social issues that they have been particularly important to the party. And then just in terms of leadership, because you have President Joe Biden, who has been criticized since essentially stepping down as the 2024 presidential nominee for being sort of a little bit of an absent leader. And I think there's this idea that Democrats are trying to prepare of how to confront a Trump presidency, a Trump administration, and how best to do that. Some people are sort of saying that maybe, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi set a good example in the House by stepping down while still remaining in her position in the chamber to help, maybe show some leadership behind the scenes, but allowing the current sort of minority leader Hakeem Jeffries to sort of try his hand at leading and potentially become the first, black speaker if the Democrats take power. What we're kind of hearing is that Democrats think maybe a Chuck Schumer, the current Senate Majority Leader, or who soon will be the the Senate Minority Leader, to maybe do something similar.
So who would then come along to replace Chuck Schumer? Because I think that'd be a huge story if it happened. But who are the faces they're looking at to replace him?
So you'll find that the second Democrat, the second Democrat in the Senate is the same. It's still Dick Durbin from Illinois.
Who's even older than Schumer.
Exactly. But they have brought sort of newer faces onto the leadership team. They include the likes of Senator Cory Booker from New Jersey, as well as Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota. They are people that ran for the Democratic nomination in 2020, who I'm sure are sort of thinking about what happens in 2028, but allowing sort of that fresh blood to come into the leadership team, I think, is maybe something that similar to Pelosi, that they might try and sort of nurture that leadership talent going forward.
And what about at the state house level? I'm sure nationally the Democrats want other office holders to step up. Who might that be?
So, and I think, again, we're sort of leaning into this 2028 argument, which, arguably can happen too soon. But I think Democrats are sort of looking at governors. So for example, you have Gavin Newsom in California, who has already sort of held special legislative sessions to make sure that they have funding in the bag so that they can confront a Trump administration, at least legally. There are people like Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, the Wes Moores from Maryland, as well as the J.B. Pritzkers from Illinois again, or from Chicago, Illinois again. And so I think that is something that they will mindful of. I think the problem is that when you're trying to get a party together in terms of unity, if you have all of these sort of power players trying to jostle and position themselves for 2028, that's when you might get into a little bit of a lack of cohesion. Maybe Democrats in disarray rearing its head again.
I always love that headline. But in the House side, there was one race, I think, that did kind of turn out where the Democrats did not go with a new person. They went with an old face.
You're exactly right. So we saw this sort of, call for generational leadership. I mean, and some Democrats did succeed in getting the new sort of House posts. But something that, and maybe this is where the argument that Pelosi set a good example was countered, because she actually backed Jerry Connolly, a lawmaker from Virginia, to come on as the sort of the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee over sort of the firebrand of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
And much younger.
And much younger. I think there was this idea, and it was interesting to hear sort of all the reporting from the meeting and the vote, but essentially they sort of said, in an era where there's hyper-partisanship, someone like an AOC in that role actually might undermine the committee's work as opposed to really amplify it. But it's interesting, I was speaking to some sources that work for James Comer, who is the House Oversight Committee chairman, and they sort of said, it's on the public record that Comer actually would have preferred AOC. And I think if that is the reason, then maybe they made the right choice with a Connolly.
Possibly. Well, if Chuck Schumer does resign, you heard it here first. This has been Reporter's Notebook for the Washington Examiner, and you can read more at washingtonexaminer.com.